by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can
sell.
wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Today is Tuesday, 30th of July. We're closing in on the end of the month. So let's take a look at what's going on with BTC, Solana, ETH, and all of that. First things first, I think we are pretty clearly due for a pullback. And, you know, if you even just look at how long have we been going up for, and do a very rough comparison of some of these uninterrupted moves. So there's a Solana move with only dips that took 23 days, right? So from the bottom to the top, up for 23 days, pulled back. Then we had a shorter uptrend, which was about 10 days. Then we had a pullback. Then we had another short uptrend, which is about 20 days. Then dipped down. We had our short bounce there. And so here, we've been going up for 24 days. So as an average, as a rough guide for how long the market takes to start getting long again and flipping bias, absolutely. It's funny. Everyone was bearish here. Nobody wanted to buy there. People were waiting for confirmation here. The last 3 or 4 days, really over the weekend, Friday and the weekend, everything I saw on my Twitter feed was just like people crawling out again and saying, oh, Solana, great, Solana this, Solana's going to hit 200 easily. That was one of the things, one of the subjective things that made me back off on the bullish idea for now. Was I saw someone post, Solana will hit $200 easily. And a bunch of people replying and agreeing in the comments. And of course, Solana won't hit $200 because they've said that. It's just how it goes. Now, I don't mean that we're going to fucking zero or anything like that. But it's a topping candle that's taken out the highs above, that's had a rejection after a 3-week uptrend. And Bitcoin the same. Lengthy uptrend, tried to push, touched 70, so touched the round number, rejected off it. So Bitcoin and Sol look to have topped. ETH actually looks better than both of them. And this is mostly because, obviously, ETH has been beaten down and shit on a lot over the past few weeks since the ETFs went live. And there isn't much of a build-up of open interest on Ethereum. Obviously, since pre-ETF news, we've had that build-up. But when it flushed all the way back down and then lower, open interest come down. So this can tell you that positioning has built, which is a bullish thing. Positioning has built from here up to here. Then open interest made a higher low, which is good. And in this second rally up, ETH went up a total of 26% from the low to the high. And the open interest went up 26%. So ETH's price and OI have tracked each other fairly well, which would be an indication of a balanced market. If price is up 50% and open interest is up 100%, that's an indication that there is more short-term leverage-driven speculation driving the market. So Bitcoin from bottom to top went up 31%, but Bitcoin's OI from its low, which was a couple of days after, from its low point, Bitcoin's OI went up to the top 41%, so it outpaced. But you also have to zoom in, like I showed in trading analysis. You also have to zoom in and look at where we're at in the context of the overall move. So you only want to look at how has Bitcoin's price moved in this consolidation. Because what is the question you're asking yourself? Well, you know this is the bottom. We know that. You know this is the first leg up. So what you're asking is, will this consolidation lead to a breakout to the upside or a breakout to the downside? That's it. We're either going to have a trend continuation or we're going to have a mean reversion back to where we started. So a way of looking at that is saying, well, what's happening here? Positions are building. Since Bitcoin's, let's take it from, I'm going to take it from this top candle here. So when it topped out there, and then all of this. Take it right from over there. Bitcoin's open interest since that point has built up to the peak. It went up another 18%. And from that, the close candle to the peak was 6%. So price was outpaced by open interest by about factor 3. So 3 times higher OI than price, indicating that more positions were building here than price was rising. And where we're at even now, even with that flush and sell off from yesterday, it's still, what is it? Price is basically flat, 1%, 2% up, and at the same point, open interest still up, 10%, almost 2 billion. So lots of positioning has built here. It's unlikely that positioning is dominated by shorts. It is correct to say, though, that longs are right currently. Yeah, you have to remember this too. Open interest indicates longs and shorts, right? So this is not just longs, this is not just shorts. If open interest rises, it means both are opening. If the market's going up and open interest is rising, that's fine as long as the market keeps going up. So what bulls need to see is really a close above here. These highest daily closes have been around that 68.4. If Bitcoin starts to close through that level, and especially through 70, bulls are correct, even with the open interest buildup. But because we've seen a sign of a potential reversal, and we've seen some lower time frame structures break, it puts it at risk of longs being offside and being wrong. There is your last swing level before the final push into the high, and we broke that. So you'd be looking at this, and you'd expect that would be like a over-under reversal pattern. Back down to the initial support, and if it loses that, you're probably going down to there. Regardless, it puts this 2 billion of extra positioning on the long side at risk if we go lower. And Sol was even more. You can see Solana. Solana with, to me, a more clear topping candle as well, because it took out a key liquidity point, reversed straight off it, reversal candle, red candle, and closed near the lows after having had open interest from so price from the bottom to the top went up 60%, but open interest was up, I think, 100%, 93. So again, outpacing price, 4-hour chart, zoom it in, looking at Sol, I would say since this top here. So I would look at Sol from this last push. It hasn't trended since then, if you're looking at this. Since then, it tried to break out, has fallen back inside. So Solana has stopped trending temporarily here. Nice trend up, now we're consolidating. Same thing, is the consolidation going to go this way or that way? We don't know, and it's very important. Don't try and guess these things, but you can estimate that since that top, close of that candle to the very peak, 5% further price increase from the peak to the peak, whereas open interest was up another 17%. So again, positions are building at a faster rate than price is rising. So again, if Solana starts to roll over and drop lower, then people who've built these positions up in this area are at risk, probably at that liquidity level there. You might see a flush down on Sol into that area. If longs are temporarily wrong, it's not about them being wrong overall. We're talking here about a mismatch between positioning and short-term direction, which just means Solana might just be going for a regular pullback to form a higher low, right? Much like we saw back in, even here, we just had like a week, 10-day pullback. Over here, you saw this initial early rally where Sol looked amazing, but it was overheated and had to cool off and put a higher low in. That's all that I'm looking at. I don't think that there's anything to be overly bearish about on a higher time frame yet. I see the market as building itself up into good structure and higher potential. So for me, when I was looking at Sol, I think that a move back down to the old value area high over here from this 4 or 5 month consolidation range that we broke out from, I think Sol could go back and revisit 172. That'd be like where I'm initially looking. And if it drops lower, then you're looking at, does a higher low form back inside? And as for BTC, similar. If you zoom it in here, you've got a couple of key shows of weakness here. I'm going to hide some of this just so it's easier to see where Bitcoin's at. Weekly open over there. And if you're looking at this May to June value area low, so this distribution area that we were in back from May into June, we originally reclaimed it, got through, went to the other side, so it went from the value area low here to the value area high there, touched it perfectly, rejected off it. We're now back down below that, which would actually open up moves down to some of this lower end if Bitcoin's not able to reclaim. 67 has been a big number for BTC all the way along, and it needs to get back above and flip that. Most of what we saw though, Monday is Monday. It's not like Monday started off with a pump, and I said on yesterday's daily levels, don't get too excited. Mondays can often be unreliable. If it starts pumping on Monday morning, it doesn't mean we're going to have a massive big green week. But similarly, it reversed and closed Monday red, which doesn't mean we're going to have a massive red week either. I still think that the most likely is that we see just a consolidation, and maybe this 4-hour, if I get this 4-hour 50, 100, 200 trend, we might just be in for some consolidation around these bands. They're still in bullish formation, 50 above 100 above 200. So this is currently a trend consolidation above the bands, unless Bitcoin starts to close below 63 and we start to see those bands crossing back again. This all would set up, for me, more likely, higher prices eventually. So you might see Bitcoin flush a little bit lower, right? You might see it go down. Let me get this, clear this off. You might see it drop a little bit lower as it drops down into here and holds and consolidates. But if it just stays around like that, it's all going to build up for higher price, right? So unless you see something like a break below here, that's when you start to look at more bearish outcomes. And Sol's the same. Sol is a very good setup, right? Sol has a very strong 4-hour trend. It can come down further. It's holding at the 50 currently. I wouldn't have any major concerns here, but lower time frames, I see us as having possibilities to drop slightly lower than here. If we look at yesterday's flows, Bitcoin and ETH, Bitcoin with a positive day, higher than most of last week's, and ETH, we flip over to ETH, another outflow day. Outflows might be starting to slow. Grayscale selling. Almost 2 billion already gone, which is about 20%, nearly 20% already of the Grayscale ETH has been offloaded, which is good. We know Grayscale, there's going to be some selling. The sooner they get through all that, the better. As for the rest of the market, just look at Total 3 for a quick overview. Total 3 is it's actually in a pretty good position here, where it's reclaimed above this breakdown level and it's consolidating there. So you've seen this and it's forming. Now it has to break above that to indicate that we're going immediately higher. Otherwise, you can see a drop back to form a higher low down here. So there's room for a move down. It's trying its best to hold, consolidate. On a weekly perspective, if you look at the bands, we have a lot of coins that are consolidating and trying their best to hold weekly trend structure, which is pretty good. If you look at total overall, stronger again because it's led by Bitcoin. If you look at some of the big altcoins, especially memes, Pepe holding good structure, reversing, holding them up on its daily. I see a lot of these just as being multi-week reaccumulation / consolidation structures, so that when the market gets bullish again and Bitcoin's able to go for a breakout, an all-time high breakout, the market's in pretty good shape. It's not in bad shape. WIF, don't see this yet as being overly bullish, despite all the seemingly bullish propaganda that you see online about WIF. I don't see how this is as strong as the others. Bonk was stronger. Bonk was following Solana pretty nicely, but seems to have put in a local top on this pushed up into the old breakdown point, reversing back off it. It's not trending. It's not breaking down. To me, it's just stuck in a consolidation, where you probably have quite a strong resistance and a strong support. So you have a strong support down here, strong resistance up there, ping-pongs around in that until one side or the other can break, and that's when you can look at higher prices or lower prices. Most coins here are just in consolidation. They're not really in areas where you need to look too much into it or go too deep on it. Looking at some of the old previous favorites, I've said this for a while that I think Ondo is pretty much done. And you can see that from how it's moving here. The nice steady uptrend has been replaced by consistent selling. Chainlink trying its best to hold down at that lower end here. Toncoin reversing, talked about this for several weeks. Most of the coins that were doing well before have started to reverse. Render's been delisted off Bybit. Have they changed the ticker or something? Render. Where is it? There we go. They've just changed the ticker. Yeah. So let's look at Render overall chart. Yeah. So Render not showing any real strength there as one of the signs for AI. Near BitTensor. People are talking about how BitTensor was, showing a lot of strength. I don't really see it. Bounced up into its weekly bands, which have crossed red. Akash, same thing. So AI doesn't seem to have built up much strength yet. And Layer 2's still down near their lows. No strength being shown just yet. So when I look at altcoins like that, it aligns pretty much with the expectation that altcoins are still several weeks away from, building bases where they can bounce back off. If you're looking at, even take Optimism for example, the comparison of op would be like here. It's come into its bottom and it's had its first bounce. Like that's where it's at. So you could easily see it do that before you'd see any strength, which takes you into end of the year before you start to see. Like whenever something goes on a very strong after a big parabolic push and drops 75% quicker than it went up. So it went up, dropped faster, full retracement. That's not a trending move. It needs then go into a reaccumulation. It's not going to go like this, right? Because that would not make any sense because it's not a trend. You can't expect a strong trending move that goes to new all-time highs after it has done exactly that and rejected, pushed above previous all-time high, and then false breakout here, lost that level, back down. Most of these are moving into consolidative structures. And I think that's normal. That's about what you'd expect. And BTC looks better than most. Holding up here, but I think that there has to be some consolidation. I think it's pretty simple. I think we're going to see more of a sideways, and we're going to see price remaining in this area for a while before we see any next directional move. There was several weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks of positive price because people were expecting, Trump to speak about Bitcoin and the markets to start rallying towards the election and all of this. So a lot of that got priced in, and then we've seen, after Trump's speech, we've seen a rejection from that. So if you look at where Trump started to speak, well, you've got two areas here. Trump's speech was due to begin at 7 p.m. UTC, which is over here, there. That was when he was supposed to start speaking, but it was delayed by about an hour or just over an hour. And you saw that dump down at the meantime. Then he started speaking, rally back up. But from the moment he started to speak, from after he started speaking, the original level from before his speech was unable to hold. Price then consolidated throughout Sunday, pushed up above it, early week, took out some highs, and we dropped back down. So from the moment before his speech at the conference, we were at 68.5. We're now at 66.5, pretty much, 2K down. So the market is telling you that sell the news, if you want to call it that, has been the move. And that doesn't mean that we have to go to brand new lows. It just means that, remember, this was the Trump assassination attempt. We're still significantly higher from there. We're significantly higher from Biden dropping out of the race, from Trump's odds rising, from him talking good about crypto. So it's the short-term versus long-term thing that I talked about on Weekly Outlook. In the short term, people are wondering, why is Bitcoin not at 75K? Because Trump loves Bitcoin. But that doesn't have to happen within a week or a day or a few days. That can be something that takes longer. So Tomorrow is the big, well, tomorrow's FOMC. That's when the Fed decide on interest rates. I don't think it's even a big one, really. It depends what Powell says, but the expectation is probably that they're not going to cut rates. They're not going to raise rates. They're going to leave them. And September will be where the rate cutting cycle begins, most likely. There could be a surprise rate cut tomorrow. I don't expect it. You know, the markets are pricing in that it's probably going to be September, not July. You know, 96%, so only a 4% chance of a cut tomorrow, but 100% chance of a cut in September. So I don't think there'll be a surprise tomorrow, and I think that we'll see more consolidation. This can be a local top then, and then you have a bit of a consolidation / sell-off to start August, and then we go. The best thing you could see would be an initial sell-off. Remember, we have a new month, so tomorrow is the end of the month. Then we start August. If you're consolidating here and you start August with a down move, that's good, because then it leaves open the possibility for a rally and a big push into the second half of August. Much better to see an early down move in a week or an early down move in a month. Because you know, when you look at these candles, they have like monthly candles, they have wicks on both sides. We're heading into the end of the month with a nice strong July after a shaky June. And if you see some kind of down move at the beginning of August, that's probably a better sign than price just moving straight off the open. We do have a tendency, though, to start the months positive. Most of these months, except May was the big exception. May we dumped straight away on the open. But look what happened. May the 1st, big dump down, and that was the low. Pushed all the way up then. June, we had here. June started off, see this? Green, 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 green. The first 5 or 6 days of June were all green pushing. What happened to June? Ended up red. So you almost want to go counter to the expectations. Be better to see an early sell-off in August. And then some support forming, probably around 64, for us to have a push higher. So I think downside risks are still there. And it's not a place to get overly bearish. 4-hour trends are still intact for Bitcoin and Sol. Market is probably in a place where it should be. I'd say we're at something resembling fair value for now. And that'll help us. That'll be good for when we push higher later on. I think the end of the year is when it gets when you're going to see most returns. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. That's it. GM. See you all later. Live stream 4 p.m. UTC.